Create, then solve equations. In example 1, we're going to use this table to solve the equation. The table shows the height in inches of stacks of tires. Find an equation to correlate x and y, and then we want to find the height of a stack of 10 tires. So if we want to correlate x and y, we look to see what do we have to do to x to get to y. That's what I want you to think. Well, I could add 8 on the first one, but if I add 8, then on the next one, adding 8 doesn't work. So plus 8 doesn't work. But if I multiply by 8, then I get 8. And if I take 2 times 8, I get 16. And if I take 3 times 8, I get 24. And 4 times 8, I get 32. So the pattern seems to be that my y is going to equal whatever my x is times 8, so 8x. So my equation is y equals 8x, and now I want to know the height of a stack of 10 tires. So 10 tires, that would mean that x is equal to 10. So I could just continue the pattern on, or I could just put that in for x and evaluate the equation like we did back in a previous skill. Okay, so we have y equals 8 times 10. 8 times 10 is 80, so y equals 80. So that means 10 tires would be 80 inches high. So that would be your final answer. In this next example, we have a word problem, and we need to translate that into an equation. Both Carrie and her sister Kim were born on October 21st, but Kim was born 2 years before Carrie. Find an equation relating Carrie's x, we're going to call her x, age, and Kim's age, which we're going to call Kim's age y. So we want to relate Kim and Carrie. So we're going to call Kim the older one, right? Because she's 2 years older than Carrie. Kim was born 2 years before Carrie. So Kim is going to equal Carrie's age plus how many years older is she? She's 2 years older, so plus 2. So if I were to write that using x's and y's, y equals x plus 2. And then I can solve. Carrie is 19 years old. I want to know how old Kim is. So x equals 19. And then I put it in. So y equals 19 plus 2. And y equals 21. So Kim is 21 when Carrie is 19. And that's your final answer. For this next example, Kate has a 10 centimeter blanket. So she starts with a 10 centimeter blanket. She adds onto it 12 centimeters each day. Find an equation for the length after d number of days, and how long is Kate's blanket going to be after 2 weeks. So first, we want to know the length. So we're going to call the length L. And that's going to be what she starts with, which is 10, and she's adding on to it 12 centimeters each day. And we're going to call the number of days D. So those are the important things we need to go. So 12 centimeters per day. Okay, so the length L is going to equal 10 centimeters plus 12 every day. So 12 times the number of days. So that's my equation. Now I'm going to figure out how long is it if she's been working on this blanket for 2 weeks. So 2 weeks is 14 days. Okay, so that means D is going to be equal to 14. And then I can just put 14 in for D and evaluate the equation like I did before. So L equals 10 plus 12 times 14. And then when I solve, L equals 10 plus 12 times 14 is 168. And you can use a calculator for that. That's fine. You don't have to do it in your head. And finally, 10 plus 168, L is going to be equal to 178. So what that means is the length of the blanket is going to be 178 centimeters. Make sure you have that after 2 weeks. And that would be your final answer. And the last example here, the table shows the length in centimeters of a blanket. Write an equation to describe the situation. So if we're looking at this, we could do plus 12, but that doesn't work for the next one because we only add 10. And then we actually add 10 every time. So with the idea of this is plus 10, and this is plus 10, and this is plus 10, we could generalize it to say, okay, so what can I do with the 10 and the x and then get 12? What can I do with the 10 and the x and get 22? So if I take 1 times 10, I get 10, and then if I add 2, I get 12. Well, let's see if that works for the next one. 2 times 10 plus 2, so that's 22. So that seems to work. Okay, so that means that my y is going to equal whatever my x is times 10 plus 2. So that is the equation that I'm going to be using. And then what is the length of the blanket after 15 days? So that means that x is equal to 15. And then I put in what I know, y equals 10 times 15 plus 2. And y equals 150 plus 2. So y equals 152 centimeters. So my final answer, the blanket would be 152 centimeters after 15 days. And that is your final answer. And those are your notes over creating and solving equations. So once you create the equation, you now know how to, figure out how to solve whatever you're looking for. Go through the practice problems because there's more different examples in the practice problems. And then you should be ready for your quiz over the material.